I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
And we are the educators. I look like a Power Rangers. All right. I don't know why I decided to do that. We are in same room. Yeah, there he is behind all that clutter and ring lights and YouTube-ish stuff.
We got natural light today. We don't even need the ring light.
Yeah, I know. It's so good with it. We still have light before it starts getting dark. It is October 22nd. It is episode 9. It is, I don't know, kind of a all right week, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're still...
Except for the state.
Yeah, we've made it a lot farther into this into the school year than we figured. And but it's still going. And because we are in the middle of a pandemic, unfortunately, there are still a lot of cases coming in. In Maine, weekly increase of 211 new cases.
Yeah.
The United States is almost 500,000 new cases, 424,000 new cases.
Yeah, we upped it in the state up past 6,000, right?
Yes.
Ugh.
Yep. And in the world, 2.5 million new cases in the last week. So it's definitely not over anytime soon. I'm just surprised that we're still in school, and
I guess it's the thing they set up. I mean, they're how they set everything up. Okay, great, it works. It's great. I just don't want to get to a point where it's like we're going to pull people out and quarantine and pull people out and get more people and move things around, and so it becomes like, okay, we get it. You need daycare, but I don't know what it's going to take for us to completely go online.
Yeah,
virtual. I mean, we're all set to do that. We are all set. We're all Google certified. We're all Seesaw ambassadors. We are everything. We're screencastifying everything. We're putting videos out. We're teaching great. The response online is like nil compared to the response in person.
Yeah, there's definitely some of those aspects I'm not a huge fan of. The quality of work is certainly different when there's not any structural supports or parental supports for the kids. I have first graders that are quite obviously doing their work alone without any help. And it is a little frustrating because you know that there's definitely some loss happening, but their attitudes are great, and everybody just wants to get the most out of this at least. And I really think that the kids are doing pretty good in comparison to what I was afraid was going to happen. So
yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that things I'm able to present are different now. Like before, neither of us have smart boards, which is a thing common now. Every teacher's got smart board. We don't have smart boards. We don't have a lot of technology that classroom teachers have.
Right.
But now I am literally posting things that we use for smart boards, drag and drop things for use on computers, stuff that I would never have looked at and thought of making prior to this. But now it's like, hey, wow, all that stuff that I thought about years ago or when I first started and I was like going crazy, gathering all this material, I can use it now. It's just, does it fit with my current plans? And do I really want, I can't get students to where I really would like them to be if I only see them for 3 weeks and I don't see them for 9 weeks, which is, it's like 3 weeks on, 3 months off, basically.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. With the, where we go from seeing all the students in a week, where we can continually keep up this relationship, where then it's 3 weeks on, hey, this is awesome, we're doing all this stuff, see you in a few months. And so it's
gonna be like the first week back. Hey, remember all the stuff we did? And remember this and this and that, and great. And hopefully get a few new things in. And then you have 2 weeks to try to can I build off of what I did before?
Right.
And then goodbye. And then you have to redo and relive everything that you just did. So we're going to be in our third iteration of reliving our schedule starting next week.
Yeah.
And we have grades we have to do as well. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge considering we're grading on participation and we're grading on a limited amount of people that are not doing they're basically doing a limited amount of work because we see them in person and then here's something to do. Who does it?
Yeah.
No one does
it. So you put out an assignment to, let's say, the remote kids. So let's just say 20 kids.
Yeah.
What's your response rate?
2.
Wow.
2 out of that. And right now I actually have, I've been looking at some of the things. I released something, and it's 2 for the last week's work. 2 out of the 2 assignments. The average is 2, and it's like, that's great. And then out of those 2, one of them is not actually doing what I mentioned, which I do mention in class. But I'm not taking class time to do it, because class time is 2 half-hour sessions.
Yeah.
So it'd be bad to be like, here, one of our class times, I'm gonna say hi, and we're gonna do a bunch of different things. The next class, we're just gonna go over what I want you to do for the next 2 days, or make you do it in class, like I know some teachers are doing. Some UA teachers I know are making them actually do the work in class.
Interesting.
Completely silent on their computers.
Interesting.
Which makes me feel like that is a wasted class time in person, because then why do you need to see someone in person if you're looking at your own screen?
That is an interesting approach. There's all kinds of new approaches coming out, some good, some better, some not so good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I like that approach either, but I'd say if I've got a class of about 20, I'm getting about 7 to 12 responses, with about 3 or 4 really good ones that I would have expected.
I'm thinking Google Classroom. That's what I'm for the older grades. As far as Seesaw, everyone's giving me 2 times the work. Really? I'm getting so many different things, but I'm not saying it's right all the time, but I am getting crazy work, and I have to prove everything. Someone says no to me, they don't want to do it. I have to prove the fact that they said no, and then go back into the assignment and approve that and send it back to them. But I still have to approve every little step of it. So I'm looking at 60 things to look at right now, even though I've already gone through 70 things today. And that's off 2 assignments and 40 kids. So
wow.
It's crazy how things can get compounded on these systems. And and you want to give good feedback as well, but then of course, what is that? It's more proving. I have to prove.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm curious if there's any educators out there listening, let us know your experiences where you're at, because we work in one school, and it seems that literally every school is doing something completely different. We can't even collaborate between schools within district, because it's so different schedules and expectations and things like that. So I'm curious if that's a common theme throughout the whole country right now, because it's interesting, and it is working. We did, like we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, we did have COVID visit our school a couple times, and the cohorting and separation and cleaning worked, and we didn't have a massive outbreak. Certainly nothing like that wedding. That we
I know that's.
Luckily, that has kind of subsided now, because it's been overtaken by a church that had a massive outbreak, and so now that one's already up over 40 something cases. And so I mean, considering looking around at these events where people don't wear masks, they're not obviously cleaning as much as we are in school, and seeing that it is negatively affecting them does kind of make me feel a little better that we're doing all this stuff, like it really is working. So there is that, at least. Science works.
And speaking about science, here's some science in the news. Right. There's my big
The first thing that I saw in the news that I think is pretty amazing is that the OSIRIS-REx probe from NASA has just taken a sample of asteroid Bennu, which is pretty amazing. Like, what was interesting is when they launched this thing towards the asteroid, they thought the asteroid was of an entirely different consistency than what they ended up figuring out by the time they started a close approach. And it's pretty interesting. Like, they would have put a different style sampler arm if they knew exactly what the asteroid was made out of. And it basically looks like Bennu is just a rock pile, like just this small pebbles and rocks.
I've got a video for us too.
I got a video for this too.
I gotta show this. So here's quick as my desktop, and here's a lot of mess of some stuff that probably don't want all of society to see. Here you go. No, there's nothing bad. But here is just a 20-second. There's no audio to it, but basically there's the rock.
So so that was the moment it touched. And it had a gas charge, so that when it touched, it shot out a little bit of air to get all of the debris to impact the little collector plate, basically.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. And on approach, there was another one too that showed it approaching, and when it approaches, it literally just looks like a bunch of rocks that you would just see on the ground, just stuck together, glued together almost. And that's really what it is, just gravity holding them. And I was actually pretty shocked at how big of an explosion that was. It's like, that looks like maybe unintended, like a little extra force. You know, some of those rocks are bouncing off $1,000 sensors and things like that on that. But, you know, this would be if we get it back. So the idea is that it's going to grab the sample, bring it back to Earth. Because no matter what we do, I mean, these probes and rovers are great at keeping costs down, but there's nothing like putting real samples in front of real scientists for study. So there are 2 other probes that have sampled either a comet or asteroid, the Hayabusa probes. One was semi-successful. The first one kind of had a crash landing. You can YouTube that one. But this one looks like it might bring back some like real decent sized samples, not just dust particles and things like that. Like, it's going to bring back rocks that we can study, crack open, study more about the origins of the universe.
I mean, I really like that interest in that. And something about NASA teasing about the moon.
Yeah, we can't talk about it much because we don't know, but like, there's supposedly something that was recently discovered by a telescope, and it's exciting news, and they're teasing that out there. So it's going to be released on Monday. So maybe next Thursday when we're doing the show, maybe we'll be covering that. And
you zoom in and there's a person waving.
Yeah.
Come get me.
So I was under the sheer just hopefulness of that it was going to be new breakthrough about the return to moon. The Artemis program was ready to go. They're ready to put the pieces together and get it there. But no, it does appear to be more of a observation-based discovery. So probably, if I was going to guess, I'd put my money on that there's more water available than they previously thought, or something like that. Something which would be amazing. And
Come on, Elon, get there. And we know Mars is amazing, but the moon is your stepping stone to go to every other planet. I mean, you may be able to take off in our atmosphere and land, but that's still costing you a lot of money to do that. It's going to cost a lot less if you have a moon base with a lot of fuel there.
That's right. Absolutely. That's the goal. That's our stepping stone to the stars.
A bunch of Tesla batteries there.
But back here on Earth, I think there's some more news.
Yeah, a little bit of news. There's a beetle called the Ironclad Beetle, and they have put it through some tests, and it says they can survive getting run over by a car.
And when I heard this on the radio yesterday, I think they literally took one of these things and drove it over with a Toyota. And I was like, well, you know, that's an interesting test. I can't say that I've ever heard of a botanist or, you know, I don't know, anybody that studies life usually doesn't put the life they're studying in mortal danger right away just to see what happens. And they did. It survived this. It's like like a cockroach can survive radiation. Apparently these things, their bodies are so strong they can like survive being run over by a car, or, you know, more pressure and crushing weight or something. Apparently they're pretty. Yeah,
I guess their exoskeleton has like jigsaw shaped links that connect the right and left sides of their exoskeleton. And so they're so tightly interlocked that they're highly damage resistant, and they get this crazy durability, so that basically it's the most perfect sort of armor you could have, basically. So I think they're trying to learn from that. Of course, everything we've got is learning from animals and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they said that so this is a beetle that can't fly. It does, you know, in its history, so its predecessors, it was a flying beetle at some point, or you know, its common ancestor was a flying beetle. And on this type of beetle, the wing covers are fused to the body, so like it's now flightless. So as a survival mechanism, it seems to have developed the ability to just survive abuse, you know, and that's one way to do it.
Like, go ahead, step on me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Hey, that tickles. Good. Keep it up. Try to eat me. Good.
Right.
It's like eating a rock. I'll come out in a matter of hours.
So it says that it's in the wooded areas of the U.S. West Coast. So I just imagine like some fox coming, strolling through, and oh, hey, look, an easy meal. Chomp. I lost a tooth. You know, like that's what it looks like. That's how these things
are. It just kind of wiggles out and just kind of laughs it off. And that's great.
So it's like, so they can survive loads 39,000 times its own body weight. And they said that to compare, it would be a human withstanding the weight of 280 double-decker buses. So I'm assuming that the writer is from England.
Yeah.
Just from that state alone.
We have single deckers here.
Yeah.
And I'm a space. But yeah, that's pretty nature. We get everything from nature. That's how we.
Yeah. To quote Ian Malcolm, life finds a way.
Yeah. No. And even now, Science News next, even the deepest, coldest parts of the ocean are getting warmer, unfortunately.
It's terrifying.
Which is, and they can measure all of this stuff. And they do. They want to measure everything because they want to make sure, just fluctuations like that. Oh, now the fish have to swim higher up or go deeper for something. And that's going to affect the food chain. That's going to affect us. We're part of the food chain. So.
And it's affecting Maine specifically right now. The warmer temperatures are driving the lobsters and shrimp more north because they prefer cold water.
And Canada's like, hey, guess where we are? North.
Yep, that's right.
And we're going to make the money and do what we can for that. And I could care less about eating seafood, but I know how many fishing communities there are around this state and how many people have done that for years.
Yeah.
Kind of get to the point where you think that doing something like that is it's gonna have a certain life. It's like someone who cuts down trees and makes things out of trees and like, well, there's no more trees. You can keep planting them. It does take a long time for a tree to grow. It's something they should have had done for a long time, certain things. But I think everything's got a certain point where it's like, we can't do that anymore. I mean,
there'll always be, as long as there's one tree standing, there'll be a lumberjack and a sawmill ready to go. But there's not going to be an industry of loggers and sawmills. And it's like the fishing industry is, there's going to be these holdouts. And ultimately what happens when all of a economy goes away is that another economy forms behind it, which is like just horses. Yeah. Once cars came along, horses didn't go away. It became this entertainment sort of.
Hey, look, I can ride a horse. I remember those days.
Right.
So we were going slow.
Yeah. There'll still be fishing charters, and people will still go out trying to fish and see what they can catch. There'll be scientific fisheries that pay lobstermen to go and see what they can get for catch and stuff like that. But I mean, the industry as a whole is just slowly coming down. And it is unfortunate because I do like lobster, I do like shrimp, and I like, probably the reason why I like it so much is because it's just native. It's just ingrained in my head that that's what we do here in Maine, and I'm used to it. And it's really sad to think that this staple, it's almost like all of a sudden potatoes didn't grow in Maine anymore. We'd be like, well, what? That's terrible, and it happened in Ireland. It could happen here.
Blight. It's just I know things. So I mean, like literally looking at the world, and we're like a giant petri dish for things changing and having to react to things. And you got to be reactive and you got to be adaptive and just moving on. That's what life is.
That's all we can do is just be the change we hope for the world, and hope some people see our model and join in. And that's what I tell students is that we don't need any more selfish people. We don't need any more narcissists. We've got plenty of them. We need caring, empathetic, intelligent scientists right now, and that's what I'm trying to.
Those pushing ideas, going after ideas, not talking about people or places, things like that. Small minds talk about that. Great minds talk about ideas, and just talking about ideas but the ideas that are worth talking about. Because there's a lot of ideas that probably aren't worth your time to invest a lot of effort in. Last science news before we move on to our amazing topic today is Homo erectus. So for those that don't understand this, you have Australopithecus. I can't even say it. Australopithecus. Yeah, really tough. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo, and then Neanderthal, basically, before we get to Homo sapiens. So we are Homo sapiens. We have a sneezing person.
The window's open. It's pollen.
So Homo erectus in this news item is not humans may have invented the barbed bone point.
So like a knife, like a primitive form of knife or weapon. Who knows whether it was to cut.
Keep saying Homo sapien. We invented everything. Before that, it was just like half ape hominids walking around. They couldn't do anything, and we had to come by and basically, yes, we interbred with Neanderthals and stuff like that, but basically we made the breakthrough and everything like that. But now they're saying no. This happened earlier than humans, Homo sapiens. So
I think that really makes sense given like what you can see in even primate activity that's around. So I was watching this thing about orangutans, and there was one of the clips that they just kind of threw in there was a orangutan grabbed a tree branch and was like literally chasing around other orangutans trying to hit it.
Yeah.
And I go, that is tool use.
Yeah.
It understands that it can get more force and be safer from a distance by using this tool, a weapon. And, you know, he obviously wasn't trying to kill the other creature. He was just sending it a message. But like this, I was like, wow, that's tool use. And then there are some monkeys that take rocks and crush, you know, certain seeds or nuts in order to eat.
It's National Nut Day too.
Oh, nice.
That's actually a holiday today, National Nut Day. And do something for your dog day.
Nice. I will have to skip that one. I'm dogless.
Yeah. We are cat people.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. We are.
Wow.
That's right. But no, I'm actually pretty interested to see more. I can't believe that this thing exists. So I'm looking at the picture right now, and it to some people, if they found that on the ground, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But these people with trained eyes look and they go, no, that's a human-made spear or tip or like knife of some sort, 800,000 years old.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing thing. So in talking about that, we're talking about the past. Our main topic today is normalizing futurism. And we've talked about futurism before, and it's not just like a philosophy about what's going to happen in the future. Anybody can do that sort of thing. It's actually thinking in terms of being proactive about the future. I mean, if you're in a job right now and you have a career, consider yourself having a career, or you're working towards anything. If you're basically working, adapting towards the future. You have some sort of goals. Even if your goal is like, I just need to know that at this certain time I'm going to have supper. You know, that's your immediate goal. Well, there's a future sort of thing with that. Most people, though, think in terms of days and months and years ahead of time. Some people can think, you know, multiple years ahead of time. And a lot of people, there are a lot of scientists and a lot of great thinkers that consider themselves futurists because they're doing something to better themselves in the future, but also to see where they think society is going in the future.
Yeah, it's an anticipation of the future. And it's interesting in talking about futurism because it's we are all kind of futurists, you know, but we just don't we have certain limitations. And it's like, you know, a lot of people have maybe a year plan, maybe a 5-year plan. Some people might be really looking for the 10-year plan, but like futurism, let's talk about 50 years. Let's talk about 100 years. Where is humanity is itself going? Also, where am I going? But like considering everything around us and thinking about our place in that, you know, that's, I think, part of futurism as well.
It's like having a goal that is further away from you because it's further in time away from you. But when you have that major goal and say, I'm going towards this goal, along the way is not going to be a straight line. You're going to go all these different ways. But because you have this goal, you do have this pull towards this like entity, towards this like, I know, ultimatum or whatever. And that is something that we should be having in our lives. We should have something. You shouldn't be aimless. You shouldn't be moving from tiny spot to tiny spot in these little incremental blocks that could be any which way and not have some sort of, I'm not saying it has to be an end goal, but having some major focus towards something.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something, they do this in school to students. The elementary level are doing that, thinking, what do you want to be when you grow up? All right, that's the first thing we all get. What do you want to be? Well, how long? What do you mean when I grow up? What is grow up? 18? Is it being your 30s? What does growing up mean? And I know people that are 20s, 30s, still growing up, still thinking what they want to do and figuring out. And you're always trying to figure it out. But you might have this overarching sort of, I don't know, maybe if it's a life goal or reason to be, basically, if you want it, if it's an easier way to think about it, a inner goal, an inner quest.
Yep. And I think, unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of people that seem to reject futurism for a number of reasons. And, I think one of the things that just kind of came to mind was that, like, if you have it ingrained in your mind that this place is just temporary and there's somewhere else that we're going to be going that's truly amazing, there's not really much sense to think about the future here, and so perhaps futurism is something hard for someone that's got a really solid religious foundation.
Yeah,
that could be something, but I think it's for people that are either secular people or people where they might be religious but not let it be their primary director in life, is largely just a fear of the unknown, and that it seems to be difficult for them to just wrap their brain around what could be. They look back at the past and they see the changes, but to think where it could go, it becomes uncomfortable for some people.
Kind of like with that whole thing with the DNA. We're going to take your DNA. And I was like, no, don't take my DNA. You're going to know everything about me, what I did yesterday. And no. And everyone was so afraid because being able to figure out your genetic blueprint and tell something about you, right? 23andMe, all these companies are coming out with this. Hey, we'll take your DNA. We'll tell you what markers you have for certain diseases. I don't want to know that. I don't want my insurance to know that. It's that whole thing, like, you're unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, but you're so afraid that it's going to tell you something that you think you shouldn't know for like another 50 years, like until some disease is going to manifest in your body. Yeah. And it's that, like, hey, it's just, these are just, everything you get is going to be sort of like here's what we know, but there's a whole bunch of unknowns. So if you can get a lot of like what you know and have a lot of unknowns, you still know a lot of different things. And futurism for most people is just ideas, collected ideas of what you think could happen and planning for that.
And some people, when you ask, like, where do you want to see the country or the world in the future? And their response is, I want it to be just like it was when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
No responsibility.
Yeah. And it's like, well, it's physically impossible. Things will change no matter what. And the people that can't grasp that tend to make shorter term goals, I think. And
yeah. No more phones. I want to get rid of my smartphone.
Yeah, let's go back to the 80s and 90s. Yeah, when we had to pass notes in class and but anytime that you ask someone to look into the future, it reminds people that they age, and it reminds people that they exist, and there's going to be a time where they don't, unless we collectively figure out life extension, which is something that we have talked about before. We'll bring up some other time. But so existentialism, just understanding that life is finite, and everyone in our family that we knew that has already passed, they're gone. That might happen to me, or will ultimately happen. Again, if life extension isn't figured out. And that's scary for people to think about, because one of my favorite things to do is I like to look at retrofuturism.
Yeah.
I like to go back into the 60s or even before, especially the 50s and 60s, just because I love their drawing style, like the art.
Jetsons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they thought the future would look like. And they were so optimistic. And it's almost a shame that some of that stuff didn't happen. You know, like even in Star Trek, where they get that thing that just scans your body. Oh, you've got this disease, and this is what we can do to, like, you know, we were talking about the antiquated methods of doctors right now, where we're twice a year we go in and a guy checks us out for 15 minutes and says, yeah, you're pretty good right now, but like, what if we just at home had this thing? What if we just checked ourselves out and we saw them only if it was serious, right? Exactly.
Like a watch that can basically do everything, and right now we don't have it. Right now there's so many things but it's going to get there, and to adopt it early and constantly be using it can really affect the fact that you're collecting data. You need to collect data about yourself. I mean, that's basically what science does, right?
Absolutely. And that's and a lot of people are like, well, you know, I'd like to think about that futurism stuff, but there's no way that I can predict the future. But there is a way to predict the future, and that's what science does. You know, if you throw a baseball at a certain angle, at a certain speed, it will land in exactly the same spot every time, outside of the wind. You know, if you factor in the wind, you'll hit it every time, all that stuff. And you can predict the future. I throw this baseball at this angle, at this speed, I can predict where it lands. That's an ultra simplified. But you can expand that out and be like, let's take a look at past, like just look at computers, the history of computers, how quickly the developments happened, and you can anticipate or predict how quickly it's going to advance. So when I was in high school, the thought of a phone that you could touch the screen, not even just the fact all these other things that it could do, but just calling people with a flat screen, impossible. I remember reading about it in Scientific American back when I was in like high school, and just trying to wrap my head around it. Wouldn't it smudge when you touched it with your finger? Isn't it gonna break if it and the answer is yes, it does those things, but we still make it work. But you know, so people that are like, no, I can't possibly think of futurism. I got to deal with the here and now, and that's all I can handle. It's like, you know, that's not really helpful, because you're going into the future whether you want to or not, and your presence does affect future generations. It's like the chaos theory. Even you know, the words that I say to a person can affect what they say to someone else, you know, down the line. And it really comes down that a lot of people find that nostalgia and looking backwards is so much more comforting than prediction. And it's easier to look back and reflect on what was, but to look forward and think outside the box and think of what could be. A lot of people aren't really comfortable with that. And I think we got to get past that collectively. And, you know, even when we talk to people about going to space, some people say, why are we spending this money on going to space when we need to fix all the things that are here? And it's like, no, like, we're going to go to space anyways. Like, you don't take a space scientist, and make him work on biomedical research. You know, it's just, they don't, some might be fine with that. But like for the majority of people, they pick their passion, they go for it. It's going to happen. It's like trying to take a baseball player and saying, why don't you just play football? Because again, it's a sport, you're exercising, throwing a ball around. It's just like, no, like they prefer that. You got to let it go.
Specific thing.
We're all moving into the future at the same time.
Yeah. I think even futurism could be broken down to those that prepare their meals ahead of time and those that don't. There's people that Sunday, it's meal prep, and they prepare every single meal they're going to eat for every single point in every day for the whole week. And they're great at that. And generally those people are the very fit, because they also exercise on a regular schedule. They also do all this stuff. And it's just that's just one level to someone who's thinking in a futuristic sort of way. And they've kind of brought it down to the scale of like daily life rather than taking in 5 to 10 years, I want to be here and stuff like that. I think on our health level, we need to be all futurists. We need to have the wearables. We need to have whatever to take any data we can. If you have your phone on you, tons of fit apps, let it record data, let it tell you how you slept, try different ones out, figure out how to better yourself. and constantly be gathering that data, because something you're going to be able to use that later on, especially like your 15-minute doctor call that doesn't basically do anything compared to your years of daily data collection. That's going to actually do something. That's where an artificial intelligence or whatever is going to figure out what happened. Guess what? These certain times your body did this sort of thing and you had this reaction and you didn't do anything about it. And this is why it's manifested as this bigger thing.
Yeah. And like you said, with our health, that we should all be futurists because we're aging whether or not we want to.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a little less hair than I used to back in the day. And it's like, sure, there's not really anything I could have done back then to prevent that. But if there was a way that I could prevent disease, unnecessary disease like heart disease or things that I can avoid, then why don't we do that? And that's something that I'm working on especially. And because in 20 years time my daughter will be not even 30, she'll be in her 20s living life, and I want to be around for that. So I need to start preparing now because I'll be almost 60 in 20 years. Blows my mind because 20 years ago I was in high school, and it's just crazy to think about. Well, you could either be afraid of that, put it out of your mind, or you can embrace it, admit that that's reality, let's do something about it. And how about I could be 60 and very active and healthy and still eating well and things like that. And as far as futurism goes, I mean, that's kind of the basic of it. It's like, we know the future's going to happen. Let's be there and
let's be ready for it and stuff like that. I think that might be the best way to talk to people about the unknown and science and stuff, is that this is what has happened. This is what we know. You should prepare for it. Yes, we understand there's a lot of tough things to think about and to go through. Everyone has parents of some sort. They're going to die, and they might die before you, and you're going to have to deal with that. Everything in your life it has a finite existence, and you have to deal with that, whether you like it or not. You can pretend it doesn't exist and stuff, but everything's going to happen. It's tough thinking about it. You don't have to dwell on it. There's a lot of things to think about. Having a positive outlook towards the future is absolutely important so that you have a direction to go in. You can't let anything get you down from that direction. And these bodies that we're in, that you're keeping alive, your body needs certain things. It can't be depressed all the time. It can't be upset. It's futurism, right? Are you shaking a shower? Are you cleaning yourself up? Are you eating every single day? Are you breathing? Are you breathing in quality air? I mean, that's the thing. You're thinking of the future. You know what could happen to some of these things because we're always getting these reminders, but there's a lot of stuff you don't know. Are you collecting the right data about your life?
Are you analyzing the right data? Are you paying attention to the right?
Yeah, and that's right now we are both trying to figure out, we're getting some data. We're just trying to figure out how we can analyze this data and reputable place. So I always think of it, do it in steps. Think of what you're already using. What can you do more of? And, there are futurists I read of, philosophers that talk about how they see the world going. They look at markets. They look at all these different things. There's a lot of billionaires that we know that have benefited from some of these futurists and have kind of said, well, this is where we need to go. We should go to Mars. We should do this. And we should put our money here because the collapse of society is going to happen. And it gets us into this idea of questioning everything, of skepticism in your daily life and toward the future. But we should always be skeptical. I mean, if you're looking at the ingredients in some food, you're skeptical about what's in there. If you're wondering where did this food come from? Is it GMO? Is it non-GMO? Is it which country of origin? I heard that this country has some of their products have some lead in it. I heard about this specific type of product. Yeah, great. Be skeptical, of what you put in your body or what you're going to be affected by. Is 5G causing cancer? That some people are making videos of that about, like that. Great. Be skeptical. Don't get so bought into an ideology that you're completely consumed by it. Be skeptical about everything, but that's what you have to do for the future.
The skeptical just means being not easily convinced. So you're gonna go, wait a minute, let me break this down for me and explain how it works. And like with 5G, that whole thing, it's like, all right, like you'd have to demonstrate that that band of the electromagnetic spectrum is ionizing. Because ionizing is what damages, ionizing radiation is what damages your DNA. So it's like infrared is electromagnetic radiation. It's not going to damage your DNA. It's not an ionizing energy source. So therefore, it's going to make you feel warm. It's going to make, that's what infrared will do. Light, visual light is just part of the electromagnetic spectrum that is something that our eyes pick up. Again, non-polarizing, not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Anything with a higher frequency than ultraviolet, usually right around UVC, UVB, UVC is ionizing and will damage tissues. And so it's like, all right, well, if, so these people are saying that 5G is doing a bunch of things, sure, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
Because do I think it's safe to have all of these, millions right now, there's probably millions of different wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation going through us that didn't exist, 100 years ago.
Mm.
Are they doing anything? I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm like, I don't know. The scientists say it's perfectly safe. Don't worry about it. But I still have a little reservation, and that's okay. I think that we all need to have a little bit of that.
Yeah. And I think it's just it's basically, we're talking about, and we're doing this is a little quick thing of futurism right now, but it's basically talking about the future, being able to have conversations about that and having it be normal. It's just the same thing as talking about death. It seems to be a big taboo, but everyone has to be faced with it. And we see it on TV and we play it in games, and it's everywhere. It's daily life. Oh, squashed a bug, dead. That thing no longer lives. You caused that. Okay, you can talk about it. And it's got to be normalized somewhere. And this is kind of why we brought up living indefinitely, longevity and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where we're just normalizing that. These things that shouldn't even be a taboo, just natural comes. But futurism is definitely a very big topic. We'll definitely have to get to that, do more about that. I think futurism, hey, going to the moon, going to Mars, that's our future. We hope. Yeah. we can eventually get there. All right. Well, this is going to be, it was a quick episode, but we're used to doing that now because Zoom tries to make things, I don't know, for some reason, this one, it doesn't seem to do it. Lately, it hasn't been doing that, but normally 40 minutes is our cutoff point. It tells me, uh-oh, no more.
Right when we need it to go longer, it won't. But when we don't need it to, it's like, yeah, just take as long as you want.
And there's a weird thing is we're in the same exact room and I'm using a meeting that is made for people to be in separate places, but it's just good for the cameras.
Using the resources.
Yeah. I use this for doing other videos as well. So it's great. So I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
And we are the Educators. Have a good night.